Welcome to Sales Bites by Journey, where we talk about everything you need to know to be a killer at sales. I'm your host, Will Jenkins. Let's get it.
Hello and welcome to Sales Bites by Journey. My name is Will Jenkins, CEO and founder of Journey, and I'm your host. We're going to talk today with a new friend of mine, Lars Ward, Vice President of Automation Solutions at Transflo. Lars, thank you for being here.
Well, we've become fast friends. Thanks for having me on the show.
Let's go, man. We got to yuck it up a little bit at Manifest. That was a blast. We chatted for like 45 minutes. I enjoyed that.
Oh, it was great. Oh, yeah.
It's good. That's good, man. Well, thank you for taking some time to share some of your sales knowledge today. Before we dive in, give me a quick fun fact. That's how we always start.
All right. Fun fact, and this is pretty cool. My uncle was the U.S. chess champion for most of the 80s and 90s.
You don't say.
Now, listen. I might not beat you on the board, but I know some people who would.
I got a guy. It's very important. That's awesome. Also, that's some big brain stuff. Winning chess is not easy.
Yeah. So he's one of those guys I've asked to play a few times.
Yeah.
First time I asked him, he said, no, I'm a professional. I don't play for fun. Second time I asked him, this maybe 20 years later, I said, hey, let's play. He's like, all right, let's play. I'm about to go get a board. He says, no. Playing up here.
Playing up here?
And I said, oh, no. Different.
I'm all set on that one, Unc. I'm all right. Oh, my gosh, dude. That's awesome. Okay, so before we start talking about your topic, I want to get a quick 10,000-foot overview of your career and then where you're at today. So give me a rundown.
I've recently joined the team at Transflo as the VP of Automation Solutions.
Congrats.
What a great team. Thank you. I'm very fortunate. Transflo has an incredible team, incredible legacy in the industry, but we also have what feels like a hyper-growth startup within the business as we're going and leading back office automation solutions. So super thankful for that. Now, before joining Transflo, I'd been in the industry for about 13 years, spent most of my career at Knight Swift, really got to see an exciting run at Knight. The acquisitions in the asset space, the growth in the brokerage, power only, was really thankful for my time there. Left in 2021 to be a founding member of Freightvana, one of the fastest growing freight brokerages during the time I was there, had a really exciting run. Left Freightvana at the beginning of 2024, spent a year over at Chima. Shout out to my friends over there. Great mid-sized asset, carrier, good-sized brokerage. So I've got to see the large mega carrier. I've seen sort of the mid-sized carrier, the startup freight brokerage, and a little bit of everything in between.
That's a really cool career journey, and also very diverse in terms of the types of companies that you've had exposure to, which I can only assume leads to you being able to attack your new role from a particularly unique vantage point, because there's a lot of people that you all do business with, and all of those are people that you've been on the inside of those organizations.
That's what makes me so excited. You're totally right. I've seen it from the provider standpoint, and now I get to go help providers drive business excellence.
I love that.
What a cool opportunity.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and dive in here, Lars. I know you want to talk a little bit about the gap on ops and sales. And so there's a lot of collaboration that happens in freight sales or sales in general. So, go ahead and hop in there. Let me know where you want to start.
I mean, let's think about it. We're selling a product, right? And the product, by and large, in trucking and brokerage, is a shipper who needs to buy freight services. We're selling that service. And there's a lot of things that go in between. But here's the challenge. Can you sell something you don't understand? I don't think so.
Probably not.
I don't think you can be successful. And hey, maybe you can sell it, but this isn't a one-time sale. When you win that load, when you win that opportunity in the RFP, that's where everything really gets started. So I've been a big believer for a long time that in order to be successful, you have to be an operations-driven salesperson. Now, what does that mean? What does that look like? Every organization, that might be a little bit different, and we can talk through it. Something that you and I have talked about is we're all kind of competing in this arena doing something very similar. We're either running a fleet or buying capacity. And we bring that to our shippers because we want to create value. We can't create the value we hope to create if we don't deeply understand the operations of this business.
100%.
if you don't, and so it's something I'm deeply passionate about. Now we have to understand, like, well, what does that look like? I would encourage anyone who really wants to be successful in working with shippers. I think they should be calling carriers. I think they should go dispatch trucks. Now, hopefully at some point in your career, you get the opportunity to do that for some period of time. Let's say you came into a role where you've always been customer facing. That's okay too. Find the opportunities, create the space to really dig into the operations of it. When I got started at Night Transportation, I was running a couple of owner ops. Wasn't supposed to, right?
Oh, nice.
I started as an account manager, but I had a couple of guys ran a small board. And I am telling you, that foundation has helped me immensely. I was talking to these drivers every day. I saw what their life looked like. I saw how they'd run their trucks. I saw what great operations was like. That helped me.
I absolutely love that because I got my start in 2014 in carrier sales. I was just talking about this the other day, and I don't think that I would have understood the customer side of the business as well as I do had I not spent 2 years booking freight, because just generally thinking about how freight operates and moves, nothing really happens until that driver picks the load up or tells you that it's a bad load or explains to you why those appointments don't work or that warehouse is bad or the hours of service don't match up. Like if you're just not well versed, you're setting up loads and you're like, why would it matter? Like, I don't really know. And you book some freight long enough, you look at loads, you're like, this is not a good load. But it's hard to know if you didn't book freight.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, hey, maybe it's a little bit of a tribal knowledge and, how do you scale the learning and the development there? Hey, we can have that conversation. But without that knowledge base, however you earn it, right, you're going to come in with a disadvantage for your customer, right?
Yes.
Because what does your customer want? They want someone who deeply understands the product. So that'd be the first thing. If you're thinking about how to bridge this gap between sales and ops, you should be the salesperson who's really driven from an operations standpoint. Now, here's the challenge. Operations folks, you need to think the same way.
Okay.
Right? Let's think about it. Whether you're running your fleet or running your carrier, the way to be successful is to think about what that customer might need, what they might want, right? The best operators can think, well, this customer needs X, Y, and Z. Here's how I should be thinking about this load. Here's how I should be thinking about appointments. And when I do these things, I'd love to have the conversation with my drivers, with my driver managers, with my brokers who are buying capacity and say, hey, if we do these things this way, I don't want to book you on a load today. I want you to run this load every day.
Correct.
And we got to do these things to make that happen. It gets to a conversation we've had about long-term value. We're moving away from a transactional mindset. We can use data to do it. We can use information, the tribal knowledge, however we want to get there, right? But if we're going to bridge the gap, we need salespeople who think like ops, and we need ops people who think like salespeople.
You know what's interesting? There's two elements of it. One is empathy. Just understanding what's going on the other side. So if you're a sales professional and you're putting a lot of opportunities on the board, hitting the pavement, doing your thing, understanding what's going on the other side to execute that freight is really important because it changes the way that you interact with colleagues and helps you just truly empathize with what's going on when you put up a bunch of new opportunities. It's good. We want the opportunities, but there are, inherent pressures that come with that. And it's helpful to know. But also on the other side, man, some of the best salespeople I've worked with ever were operators who had a chance to shine in like a QBR. And you're like, oh my God, I've never seen that side of you. And they rock it because they understand the dynamics of the business, but they're thinking my job is to expand. Like, how do I find more ways to start? And vice versa. You get like you mentioned, a sales rep that goes, cool. How do we dot our I's and cross our T's so this is successful long-term, not just like get the business? There's a lot of ways to do that.
Most of the shippers I talk to, quite frankly, they love the relationship side of this business. And I think we all do.
Yeah.
The people they really want to talk to are operators. They want to talk to the folks who are going to make it happen, who understand the dynamics of their business, understand the dynamics of what they can offer, and put those pieces together. And I've had that same moment where you've been in a QBR with an ops leader and they're like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm going to take a step back. They've got it, right? Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy.
You know what I think it gets to, and I love that you use this idea of empathy, right? We are not competing. Sometimes it feels like we might be. We have a shared goal. I've had those moments where operations has said, well, we don't want this freight. I've had these moments as a sales leader where I've had to come down on operations and say, we are going to lose this freight, right? What do we do in between? Now let's imagine a different world where I know exactly what we can run. I know why I'm better than anyone else at it, and I can bring that to a shipper. That's how we create value that's outsized from anyone else.
100%. So you mentioned something there about not competing, being on the same team. How do you foster those types of relationships as a leader? Let's talk there. And then as an individual contributor that may be, going to land business, you're working with both sides. Like, how do you do that? Because that's a big gap in most companies.
Totally a big gap. So we'll look at the leader view first. I would argue that's effectively a culture conversation. We have to foster a culture of collaboration. And what does that look like? Usually it's a high-performing, high accountability organization that can bridge the gap. The problem is if any one side of this equation is holding too much of the weight, I think it sort of falls apart. You see a lot of organizations, I think, let's be honest with one another, right? A lot of organizations where I think the sales team is not held accountable. Their job is to bring in opportunities, but those opportunities are not qualified and they don't fit what the organization might need.
Yep.
Selling's hard, there's no doubt about it. So's operations, right? At the same time, we need operators who have a level of responsibility and accountability for doing their job the right way, treating carriers with respect, clearly communicating, and being proactive. Oof. Is that the free spot on the bingo card? Proactive. Like, come on, right? I've never, have you heard the broker who's told you, hey, we don't service our freight well. We're expensive to the market.
Yes.
And proactive, haven't heard of it. Right?
Never heard of it.
Not once, right? And so we've got to foster a culture that believes we hold each other accountable and that we perform at the highest level we can. And that when we do those things, from a leadership perspective, we bridge the gap. Now, bring it down to the individual level. You have to live that out and you have to practice it. And it doesn't matter if you're a leader or if you're on the front line. You have to be the kind of person who views everything as something that you can influence. And I think when you have that sort of mindset, that's where rubber hits the road, right?
Yeah.
That's where it's like, hey, trying to think of the right way to say it, but have you ever heard of the idea of the monkeys on your back? I love this.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas like the monkey's the problem. Mm-hmm. And you got some folks in organizations who say, hey, if it's my monkey, it's my problem and I take care of it. And you got some who say, hey, I'm gonna give you my monkeys. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna give those problems away. Maybe not the perfect analogy, but what it really comes down to is personal accountability on the individual level, who's there, how you show up, how you operate. And to win as a organization, it's creating the culture that says that.
I think there's a certain level of expectations that incredible organizations have around not passing the buck. I played football in college. I still have a Buckeye that my college football coach gave us. It's probably behind me on this bookshelf, but the idea was if it's my responsibility, I'll get it done. And if it's not my responsibility, I'll get it done, right? I'm not passing the buck. Now, I may loop in some people that are more well-equipped to execute it, but if something hits my desk and that's going to impact our ability to service a customer or take care of a carrier, and I'm aware, I've been made aware of it, I need to figure out a way to solve it. Am I saying I spend my entire day solving carrier problems if I'm a customer sales rep? No, it's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if I'm made aware of a challenge, I should be the type of person to say, no, that's not how we do business. Let's get this figured out. I think that is just so important with the way people do business because blame shifting and lack of accountability will crush your ability to grow.
When you're sharing that, something that I've been struck by multiple times, but when you've seen somebody, could be a leader, could be somebody who's on the front line, when they've encountered a problem that's not theirs and they followed up on it because they cared, because that is the inner excellence that they deliver. That is, I think, the key to being successful, whether it's ops, whether it's sales, right? But the problem is we in logistics are working on the greatest group project that's ever been invented.
Oh, yeah.
How many parties are involved in getting the job done externally? Carrier, broker, shipper, all the tech vendors who bring it together. Internally within the organization, how many folks are involved? Sales, customer success, operations, a few more that I'm not naming. Right?
There's a ton.
We need everyone to play their role. And in between, you need leaders to step up and to say, I'm not going to pass the buck. We're going to hold everybody accountable because we demand excellence in what we do. When you got that, man, it's special.
You got me fired up, man. I want to go ahead and wrap up here. I took some notes on the items that you mentioned here. Really, really good, heavy hitting stuff. So we'll start at the top. You mentioned that it's hard to sell something that you don't understand. So just getting a general understanding of the space as a seller, what happens in operations, what's going on in sales to make the whole engine continue to run. You mentioned as an ops rep, it is important to think as a sales professional may. So how do you expand the business? What's going on that side to help the business continue to grow? And then vice versa, you mentioned that sales reps need to be thinking as operators are. So super important to just understand like what's going on with the freight once you accept it and how do we make sure we execute that for the customer. And then the last one that I love because your boy loves some accountability. Love some accountability. He said it's a culture thing, foster a culture of high performance and accountability. That's how you create excellence in an organization. And when you look at market leaders, they are operationally sound, the most sound that you'll see. And it's because they hold people accountable. So I love that. But anything else to add that I may have missed?
You won't bridge the gap by yourself. But without your individual work, it'll never happen. It is a culture thing. It is an accountability thing.
It's beautiful. All right. I appreciate the time today, Lars. You crushed it. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you, Will. That was a fun conversation.
Awesome, dude. See you.